Welcome back to the channel and welcome to How to Discover Your Optimal Backswing. I'm the ice golfer Mickey Steins. This is the fourth video in a series of videos showing how you can go from sitting on the couch to a club champion. Let's get right into it. Every golfer has a specific range of motion. Some people are more flexible than others. People have different lengths in their arms, different torsos, different lengths in their legs. Therefore, we need to find out what is your ideal backswing based on your flexibility and your specific range of motion. So there's just a few easy steps you need to take to find your natural backswing. First, stand up tall. You lift your lead arm for a right-handed golfer. This is my left arm, and it needs to be parallel to the ground. You want to start by moving that arm across your chest until it stops. You don't want to keep going and have it broken down. So just across your chest till it stops. Then you want to hinge at the waist towards the golf ball like you're getting into your normal setup. And then you want to turn 90 degrees. Once we're at our 90-degree turn, we add our right hand in like we're gripping a golf club. And with that right arm, you want to see less than 90-degree angle in this elbow here. Our arm is going to be lifted off of our rib cage, and the feeling is like you're holding a waiter's tray. Now, a couple more specific details about our top of our backswing. From the down the line view, the distance between your right and left arm should just be a few inches. You don't want your right elbow flared out behind you, creating a huge gap. It's just a few inches between your two arms, and your left arm should be on the same plane as your shoulders here. For me, based on my natural flexibility and range of motion, this is where the top of my backswing should be. So how do we get from our setup that we've been working on in our previous video to the top of our natural backswing? Is you need to find an object in your house to swing around. And what I have here is a yoga mat. I have it tied up, and the only thing that needs to be specific is the actual height of your object. And it should be roughly about the same height as if you were to bend over and get into your normal setup. It should be at the same height of where your arms nice and comfortably hang. So for me, it's a yoga mat. You could find pretty much any object around your house that you could swing around. Okay, to set up this station, you want to place the object down your toe line as if we were hitting a ball in this direction. We want it on our toe line, and the distance away from us should be the length of the club that you're using, and the object should be just beyond the hosel of the club. You can see right here, I'll drop it down to the ground, and it should be right off of the back foot. For me, it's my right foot as a right-handed golfer. This is a 7-iron. If I were to use a 5-iron or a driver, the object would be farther away from me. So that's how you set up this station to work on from your setup to the top of the backswing. Okay, now that we have our object properly set up in our station, we want to practice swinging around this object. So we want to initiate our backswing with our shoulders, not our hips. And the feeling that you want is you want to move this right shoulder back and trying to touch your spine. That's the thought and the image and the feel you want in your head. So this is the first half of the backswing. That's what's called the takeaway. We're going to move our right shoulder back and try to touch our spine. And because that the arms and the hands are attached to our body, it is naturally going to move away as we're trying to touch our right shoulder to our spine. Now that we're at this position after the takeaway, we want to start hinging our wrists up into the air. Now, this is very important here. When you hinge your wrist, you don't want to hinge it too much because you'll see this cupping in your wrist. Or if you don't hinge it enough, it will bow like this. And as you bow it, you will hit actually the object. If you hinge it too much, you'll miss the object by a large distance. When we do our takeaway, we pull our right shoulder back to our spine and we hinge our wrist, and you should just miss the top of the object. To know that this is correct, if you look at a camera down our foot line here, you'll see that the club head is right in line with our hands. That is the first half of the backswing. The second half of the backswing, once we're at this position here, is we're just going to lift our arms to the top. until we can't rotate anymore. This is the top of my natural backswing based on my flexibility and my specific range of motion. When we're at home, all we need is this object, and we're just going to barely miss it to the top of our natural backswing. You want to continue to do this until it becomes second nature to you. Our right hip, as we're going through our backswing, is going to sink backwards. Because our hips is attached to the spine, attached to our shoulders, our hips are naturally going to move backwards as we try to touch our right shoulder to our spine. In my personal opinion, the backswing should be mainly your shoulders moving and your hips are naturally going to pull backwards. As this right hip goes backwards, this left knee will start moving towards the ball on the ground. Let me grab a ball. Let's put this ball on the ground. As we're moving this right hip backwards, this left knee here is going to point towards this ball. All of this is a natural movement from the connection of your shoulders to your spine to your hip. So I want you to practice this as many times as you have to, or the time that you're allotted to do it, until you get that feeling down pat. What we need to talk about is what's called your swing plane. To explain swing plane, I have a practice drill that coincides with missing our object as we work on our backswing. Now to do this, we set up a rod on our target line, which is just laying on top of our golf ball, and we take an extra rod or an alignment stick and we add it to the bottom of our club here by the grip, and now we've made this extended golf club. So we get into our setup that we worked on in the last previous episodes, and when we're in this setup, this rod is going to run just on your belt buckle here and going back behind you. This represents the club, and the rod is the swing plane that we're trying to swing on. And so when we initiate our backswing, we want to have the club follow that target line or the orange rod that's on the floor. As we take the club back, you can extend out this elongated club and it will always be on this same line. As we go farther into the swing, the rod rolls down our leg, we start to hinge our wrist, and if I were to extend out this stick, it would continue to be on that target line. So this swing is currently on plane. Once we get up to the object, our club is going to be parallel to our actually target line. And now as we lift our arms to the top of our backswing, the end of this rod is now pointing at the target line. And it's going to continue to point at the target line until we get to the top of our natural backswing. So this is the top of mine where I get a complete turn. And if I were to extend out this rod all the way out to the right, it will still be on the same line as our target line here. Practicing your backswing with your club on plane will create a simple and very easy backswing to recreate. The more simple and easier this backswing is, the more consistent golf shots you'll hit. You won't have to compensate for your club going off plane. If I were to bring the club inside, you can see that the rod gets disconnected from my body. I'll have to bring the club up on top, and then I'll have to find compensating ways to get to the club back to the ball to hit a golf shot. Same thing if I bring it too high up in the air, you can see the rod gets disconnected from my body. I'll have to reroute the club to get back on plane. So practicing your backswing with the objects and the rod attached to your club will help create this simple and easy swing to repeat so you can play more consistently and shoot lower scores. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Click on the description of this video. There'll be links to all my social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, and TikTok. Till next time. It's a little slow. That's all right. Oh, I knew you were listening. I can't do it if you're listening. If you pull it too much inside, you'll hit the object. And if you pull it too high, well, don't worry about pulling it too high right now. I got a bunch of them. Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and TikTok. Ooh, don't forget TikTok.